Meat is good for you. How does hearing that make you feel? Maybe a little conflicted? Because in today's world, we often hear meat is unhealthy, end of story. Maybe you've seen the food compass that rated Lucky Charms and almond M&Ms higher than beef and eggs. Or maybe you've taken to the healthy eating pyramid's advice to use red meat sparingly. Animal products have been demonized for decades, but if you take a closer look, you'll see the case against meat is not only short-sighted, but also potentially dangerous, which is why today we're flipping the script.
A lot more to be gained from red meat than there is risk.
Not the enemy we thought it was. There's almost no way that animal fats are like the primary driver of our burden of disease.
Meat is what actually made us have such great, powerful brains.
The closer we can get to that, like what did our ancestors eat, the healthier we're going to be.
The truth is, meat was critical to our evolution, contains essential nutrients we cannot get anywhere else, and can be a powerful tool for maintaining a healthy body composition. And since there's never been a truly vegan culture, eliminating animal products is essentially an experiment.
Individuals are demonizing whole foods in order to offer processed fake meats.
And it's ultimately advice for which there is no precedent. It's an experiment.
With more people switching to plant-based diets, we have to ask, can plant foods adequately replace animal products? Will cutting back on meat improve your health? Or is it possible that meat is an important, even irreplaceable food? I think you can agree it's time we rethink meat and its contributions to our health.
Our ancestral dietary past.
Exclusive meat diet.
That was exclusive.
From an evolutionary standpoint, humans have been
higher
eating
animal
meat.
product consumption correlated with better health.
Is what built us as humans. It is only because of introducing, I'm convinced, animals into our diets that we were able to have those changes and those evolutionary changes that eventually resulted in modern day Homo sapien.
Let's take it back to over 3 million years ago when our ancestors stood about 4 feet tall. I spoke with world-renowned archaeologist Dr. Bill Schindler about what happened when humans incorporated meat and then the entire animal into their diet.
From here to here is what we see when we introduce meat into the diet, and then from here to here is the difference between, introducing the entire animal. And this change from this to this is the most substantial brain and body growth we see between species in our evolutionary past.
Fast forward to the agricultural revolution, the transition from primarily hunter-gatherers to agriculture, where meat consumption declined.
One of my first archaeology classes in graduate school, professor puts out 2 sets of bones. They were from the same exact area, but one was from prehistoric hunter-gatherer group, and the other remains were from a group after they started farming. The remains of the hunter-gatherer was robust, was large, was free of disease, the teeth were beautiful, and then the other one was riddled with disease. Face was smaller, tooth crowding, tooth wear. I mean, it was night and day different.
2 other major shifts occurred in the late 1700s with the Industrial Revolution, when food manufacturing began, and in the 20th century, when processed foods became a staple in American diets. By the 1930s, the health consequences of these dietary transitions were becoming apparent, with the work of 2 experts highlighting why animal products may be particularly important. First is Arctic explorer Dr. Wilhelm Stephenson was forced to consume an exclusively animal product diet on an expedition.
Good evening, Dr. Stephenson. My first experience was that a ship that was supposed to meet me didn't meet me. And I had to become a guest of the Eskimos, and for 4.5 months, I lived on literally nothing but fish and water. Well, we had some blubber, some polar bear blubber, but apart from that, and at the end of 4.5 months, I was healthier than I'd never been before.
This imposed transition away from modern foods lit a light bulb for Stephenson. When he returned home, he was determined to demonstrate the value of animal products with a self-experiment that gained interest from the United States government.
When Stephenson, the Arctic explorer, who had often subsisted solely on meat for long periods during his northern expeditions, undertook to live and work under the controlled supervision of a group of American physicians for an entire year on a fare of meat exclusively. The results of this experiment astonished the scientific world all eyes turned to meat with new respect.
I have since then spent more than 6 years on red meat.
Stephenson maintained an animal-heavy diet, following the lead of cultures like the Inuit and the Maasai of Africa with good health until his death at 82, a time when the average life expectancy was around 40. Around the same time, Dr. Weston Price, an American dentist, took a trip around the world to discover a diet that might help his patients overcome the dramatic increase in cavities. Doctor of Nutritional Sciences Chris Masterjohn, who has studied Price's work extensively, discussed one of Price's most important discoveries.
American diets are really at their low point in all of American history here, and everyone's got tooth decay. Price says, I want to find controls for my science experiments. I need to go find the people who have no tooth decay and study what is it that's giving them their immunity to tooth decay. Price concludes that the fat-soluble vitamins in their diet were especially important, and that these were coming from organ meats and egg yolks, whole fat dairy products, small animals and insects, which are consumed whole, and therefore you consume the organs with them as well as their bones. And the fourth was the animal life of the sea, especially shellfish.
Dr. Price was also able to witness what happened when modern foods like wheat, sugar, and vegetable oils displaced traditional foods. He observed detrimental changes like the crowding of teeth and the narrowing of the face and reduced immunity. But despite these findings, the demonization of animal products and our disconnect from ancestral foods has continued. Today, almost 60% of American adult calories and 67% of children's calories comes from ultra-processed foods, which may be causing unintended consequences.
What's most interesting about modern day Homo sapien brains is that not only is it not getting bigger, but our brains have actually started to get a little bit smaller. Now, there's a lot of different factors that are involved with that, but we know how nutritionally needy brains are. We need to fuel it not only with the right amount of nutrition, but the right kinds of nutrition. And we're talking about incredible amounts of protein and fat.
What's this bit about proteins? What's so big about proteins anyway?
Is that we need higher quality protein.
In order for this body to continue functioning, much less to grow
and make it strong,
it must have new cells. These cells are made from protein.
For the growth and repair of human organs.
Bioavailable source of protein.
So, where do we get the high quality protein and fat Dr. Schindler is referring to? You guessed it. Animal products. And though many people today believe animal products are replaceable with plant-based proteins, powders, and highly processed foods, it's vital we explore the 3 nutritional advantages of animal-sourced foods. First up, when compared with plants, animal products often contain higher quality protein. I spoke with the founder of the Institute for Muscle-Centric Medicine, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, about why protein is so critical.
We have a pretty high need for protein. Yeah. It is arguably the most important essential macronutrient. You need it for everything, for bone turnover, for body turnover, for organ systems, for muscle, for hormones, for anything that you can think of, for anything that also has a structure, which is just about everything. You do need dietary protein.
And yes, animal and plant foods both contain protein, but let's talk about why animal sources are higher quality. Now, there are 20 amino acids that make up the protein in our body, 11 that we can make, and 9 essential amino acids we need to get from our diet. Proteins, often animal products like beef and eggs, that contain all 9 essential amino acids in high enough quantities are complete, while those that do not, often vegetarian sources, are incomplete. The digestible, indispensable amino acid score is a rating system for protein quality that considers the amino acid composition and absorption. With a few exceptions, animal proteins are of far higher quality than plant proteins. You can combine foods like beans and rice to create a complete protein, or eat a higher amount of total protein, but you'll often need to consume far more calories and carbohydrates. For example, to get about 20 grams of protein, you would need to eat half a chicken breast for about 140 calories, or 5 tablespoons of peanut butter for 477.5 calories. And given that today 2 out of 3 Americans are overweight or obese, I talked with 2-time best-selling author Rob Wolf about why high-quality, low-calorie protein can be important.
And so our biology is wired up not so much to sense nutrients specifically, but to sense amino acids and protein. And so organisms eat to what's called a protein minimum. And then typically once they hit that minimum, they're done eating. But if organisms don't get enough protein, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's humans or fruit flies or horses or what have you, if they don't get enough protein, they keep eating.
Research has shown that increasing the percentage of protein in your diet can reduce nighttime eating and cravings by half, reduce daily caloric intake by 441 calories, and improve weight loss. Clearly, protein can be powerful, but sadly, many of us are not getting enough. Now, the current dietary reference intake for protein for women and men is 46 and 56 grams respectively, which many experts believe is far too low. For example, the trials we discussed earlier had protein intakes 2 to even 3 times higher. Many experts believe a great daily goal is 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. According to registered dietitian and author of Sacred Cow, Diana Rogers,
usually recommend at least double the RDA of protein. So kind of a minimum of 100 grams of protein per person per day, which looks like about 4 to 6 ounces of animal source foods, breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 times a day.
Protein researcher Dr. Van Vliet also suggests higher intakes for certain populations, like pregnant and nursing moms, aging individuals, athletes, and even children. But it's not just the protein quality that makes animal products invaluable. Animal products also contain more of certain nutrients too.
But our body needs more nutritious food.
How we should be best nourishing ourselves as humans.
And proper food depends on vitamins.
Retinol, which is vitamin A.
Vitamin A is for the eyes. The answer is carrot.
Ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C.
Builds up our vitality.
Body cells need specific
nutrients that were identified over 100 years ago.
The special rations of cod liver oil.
Critical to the function
food
of
that
our
we
cells.
can use for growth, for repairs, and
Most
for steady
Americans
work.
don't get enough of several essential vitamins and minerals.
Nutrient density is a term you've likely heard, meaning a food contains high levels of nutrients. But what you might not expect is that nutrient deficiency is an issue even in developed countries. I spoke with the research advisor for the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, Dr. Ty Beal, about how surprisingly prevalent they are.
We looked at some evidence in high-income countries. So we have data on the US and we have data on the United Kingdom. We found that 1 in 2 women in the United Kingdom have at least one deficiency.
Wow.
So that's half of the population of women of reproductive age. In the US, it's about 1 in 3 women from the data we have. Now, we're not looking at all micronutrients, so we don't have data on all of these. If we had data on every essential nutrient, we actually would probably see a higher prevalence.
Dr. Beal created a rating system that identified foods containing the largest amount of the nutrients many people are deficient in. 9 out of 10 of the most nutrient-dense foods are animal products, and only 1 plant-based food group, leafy greens, made the top 10. And though vegetables are often lauded for their nutrient density, when you compare carrots to liver for 100-gram portions, liver contains 14 times the iron, 13 times the zinc, 150 times the copper, 83 times more vitamin B12. There are also certain nutrients only found in animal products. Vitamin B12 deficiency is common for those who do not consume animal products and can result in a number of abnormalities, including death and irreversible cognitive impairment. This 2020 review also discussed the weight loss, cardiovascular, and overall benefits of often overlooked animal-based nutrients like taurine, an essential nutrient for children, carnosine, carnitine, and anserine. So, if it's well established that animal products are exceptional sources of protein and nutrients, why do they often get a bad reputation? Take the Food Compass rating system I mentioned at the beginning of the video, created in 2022 by researchers at Tufts University. In this rating system, foods are ranked from 1 to 100, and processed foods like Lucky Charms, frosted mini wheats, almond M&Ms, and even ice cream cones with nuts scored higher than ground beef and eggs fried in butter. As you may have guessed, many people questioned the accuracy of this rating system, and even Dr. Beal published a critique proposing that the algorithm was not well justified and exaggerated the risks of animal source foods and underestimated the risks of ultra-processed foods.
I think the researchers themselves are genuine and doing their best. Now, they are also funded by industry.
Now, food companies can fund important research, but it's important to be skeptical of industry funding, especially when the findings favor industry. And finally, there is one more important reason animal products are irreplaceable: more bioavailable nutrients. Surprisingly, eating a food doesn't guarantee that your body can use all of its nutrients. Bioavailability refers to the fraction of the nutrients your body can use, which is often different from the numbers on the nutrition label. Anti-nutrients found in plants can inhibit our ability to utilize some of their nutrients. For example, a recent study showed for meat substitutes, the zinc and iron bioavailability is very low due to the high anti-nutrient content. Animal products also contained preferred forms of certain nutrients. The form of vitamin A found in plants, for example, is not the active form our bodies require, which is found in animal products, and it's estimated that you need 12 times more of the plant-based form. In other words, you could eat 1 ounce of beef liver or over 50 cups of kale to get the recommended daily amount. And for some people, genetics and health status can still limit the conversion.
Whenever there's a nutrient that's found in both plants and animals, our bodies prefer the animal source version of that.
Now, because of these unique nutritional benefits, the World Health Organization describes animal source foods as the best source of high quality, nutrient-rich food for children aged 6 to 23 months. Several trials have also shown their ability to reduce stunting and improve cognitive performance, and one trial revealed that children whose diet was supplemented with meat had test scores 45% higher than baseline, whereas those supplemented with milk and oil had much smaller improvements. Researchers also revealed meat, likely due to its ability to reduce malnutrition and muscle loss, may increase lifespan, with a recent analysis of 175 countries concluding that meat intake is positively correlated with life expectancies. New York Times bestselling author Mark Hyman also noted meat's beneficial impacts for the aging populations in a story about the supercentenarian Emma Morano.
There was a story I wrote about in my book of Emma Morano, who was a woman who lived to be 117 years old. When she was a young lady, she was anemic, and her doctor told her to eat 3 eggs a day, which she did her whole life. And then in her 90s, she was getting a little kind of frail and weak, and her doctor said to eat 150 grams meat a day. It's a lot. She did that, and she lived to be 117 years old. So, but meat is a really important source of bioavailable nutrients.
Meat-inclusive diets that emphasize whole foods have also demonstrated impressive health benefits in several clinical trials. One trial on the paleo diet resulted in an average of a 10-pound weight loss, and another an average of a 5-pound weight loss in just 3 weeks. Just like Stephenson experienced, a recent Harvard trial exploring a meat-only carnivore diet revealed striking benefits, as 74% of participants resolved diabetes, 100% stopped using injectable diabetes medications, 96% improved cognitive function and psychiatric issues, 93% improved weight issues, and 89% improved autoimmune conditions, suggesting meat-only diets may be therapeutic for certain individuals, at least in the short term. World-famous internist Dr. Drew Pinsky also shared his 2-year experience with a carnivore diet.
I said, I think I could do the carnivore thing. And I will tell you, within 3 days, I felt better. I was sleeping better. My mood was better. My affect was better. We had terrible, terrible vascular disease in my family. I could never get my HDL up. I could never get my triglycerides down. And just 6 months on no carbs, my HDL went up to like high 60s. My triglycerides went from consistently 225 down to 70.
Dr. Walls, a former vegetarian, also believes her meat-free diet may have contributed to her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. In 2007, Dr. Walls was confined to a zero-gravity chair and took treatment into her own hands by creating the Walls Protocol, a dietary protocol emphasizing vegetables, animal products, and organ meats. In an interview, she explained her remarkable transformation.
The next week, I tell Jackie, I want to sit in a regular chair at supper. That's a big deal. I'm sitting up in a regular chair. And I'm thinking, my energy's a little bit better. My mental clarity is better.
Next, she explains the moment she fully understood the power of her dietary protocol.
It's Mother's Day, and I really want to try riding my bike. So we have an emergency family meeting that, Zach, you run on the left, Zeb, you run on the right, and she's going to follow. So we all get in position, we push off, and I bike around the block. Now that 16-year-old boy, he's cried. My 13-year-old daughter, she's cried. Jackie's cried. And I cry even now when I talk about that. When you have a progressive neurologic disorder, you let go of the future. And it wasn't until I had biked around the block that I understood maybe I do have a future.
Dr. Walls has since conducted over 7 clinical trials demonstrating the efficacy of her protocol, which has changed the lives of thousands of people worldwide. In conclusion, it's clear animal products were important foods for evolution and are likely tools many of us can use today to maintain and improve our health. Animal products contain low-calorie, high-quality protein that can reduce cravings and improve body composition, and concentrated bioavailable nutrients that are essential for optimal health, childhood development, and healthy aging. Host of America's #1 health podcast, Shawn Stevenson beautifully describes why the food we eat is so important.
Every single cell in your body is made from the food that you eat. Now, it goes even further than that. Not only every cell, but every signal in our body is made from food, right? So we talk about hormones. Hormones are protein. Hormones are proteins. If you're not providing your body with the building blocks to make these things, the human body is incredibly resilient. It can do a patchwork job and try to bypass certain situations, but you're going to have the onset of disease and dysfunction. And so to have food be this kind of soft science is so ignorant. It's just the entire premise of our system of medicine today. It's based on a incomplete model of reality.
In the past few decades, many have argued that animal products are driving obesity and disease. Yet at the turn of the 20th century, obesity and modern degenerative diseases were practically non-existent. Yet animal products were an essential part of the American diet.
11 million people die every year from eating bad food and not enough good food. That's more people than die from smoking or any other cause of death. It's like Dorothy with her ruby red slippers, she had the power to get back to Kansas all the time. She just didn't know it. And we have the power to reverse all these chronic diseases, to deal with 80% of our healthcare costs, which is $4.1 trillion now in America. Billions of dollars of disability and suffering we spend every year. That's all preventable and reversible.
Perhaps rather than demonizing the foods that have nourished us for millions of years, we should embrace the wisdom of our ancestors and understand the vital role animal products have played historically and can play today in creating and maintaining vibrant health. Thank you for joining me for Rethinking Meat. I sincerely hope it was helpful.